subjects, yeah, go disrupt you with mine tonight. Trending topics in the spotlight, breaking down what's right.
Welcome back. Yes, Echo Disrupted episode. Let's go. So, yeah, it's been a very eventful week, as always. I think that's going to be the standard intro to any conversation leading up to January 20th. And then it'll be a whole other velocity after that.
Won't you just call it, say what it is? It's going to be a bunch of shenanigans, but either way, and we'll be here for it.
It's going to be a whole other level, too. We probably will come up with a new word.
It's going to be some chicanery, foolery, shenanigans, and everything in between. But that being said, we will be here to discuss the events as they happen.
Absolutely. Just to keep sanity for sanity's sake.
To the degree that we can, because, again, there's going to be some shenanigans. If it's anything like it was before, it's going to be complete crap show. But we are here for it.
I thought you was going to throw in your famous word.
No.
I was waiting. Sports ball reference. I thought it was going to be an alley.
No, I'm not going to. Listen, that's reserved. There's going to be some time, right? So we know if the earth is still around and the sun still comes out,
it's time.
We're going to have some justification to throw out the big boy. So there's definitely going to be some shambolic behavior. So we will be ready when it's time.
Yeah, let's jump in, especially since we're talking about news, information. Clearly, there's a lot of misinformation that's out here. What is your thoughts in terms of influencers, what the space looks like? We now have former commercial, I guess, I'm going to say commercial or cable journalists, newscasters now on the independent media. So to me, the playground is full. So what are your thoughts in terms of misinformation, willful ignorance? What do you think that this new dynamic looks like?
I got a couple of theories, actually. So there was an article that said 40% of young people get their information from influencers. And many of those influencers are right-leaning. And I think a lot of that is a derivative of people just not having basic information. And in today's conservative / right-leaning media, it is so filled with non-factual information. It's just easier to gravitate towards, right? You don't have to do any fact finding. You don't have to really look into it. You can just shoot from the hip, right? Let's just use Donald Trump as an example. What's the last true thing anybody heard Donald Trump say? It's easy to go in that route. It's junk food, right? It's the junk food of information, if I could draw a parallel. Mm-hmm. And I think because young people, especially people who don't necessarily the people who aren't necessarily educated or interested in news generally, right? You go with what the low-hanging fruit is. And it becomes just something easy that you can just grab onto, like a McDonald's, right? Like a bag of Doritos, right? Who wants to sit down and make an entire 3-course meal or 4-course meal where you've got sensible salad and all the rest? Who wants to do all of that? Well, you could just go grab yourself a McRib. Shout out to McRibs.
Limited time.
There you go. But you have that component. I also think there's something else as well, right? If you look at a lot of the adults who aren't necessarily educated, and when Donald Trump says he loves the poorly educated, he knows what he's talking about. Those people would love to be in the conversation. They are in the conversation. You look at social media, right? They're grown men, right? 30s, 40s, and sometimes 50s and better, who are just out here just saying complete nonsense, right? Just complete nonsense, all conjecture and opinion based. That something that a simple Google search would easily address. But these are people who aren't inclined to do Google searches, who aren't inclined to necessarily do any deep research into anything, right? And just want to go with what feels good. And they end up connecting imaginary dots that don't exist. And what ends up happening is now you got a guy like, let's just use as an example, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith goes on the other day about Joe Biden pardoning his son, and we'll get to that later down the line. And he starts drawing all these parallels and comparisons and saying how Biden is just like Trump. And if you know anything, you're like, okay, that is a false equivalence, just to say the least. A lot of people just simply don't know anything. A lot of the people who are consuming this information, Stephen A. Smith's audience doesn't necessarily have the background information to understand that's a false equivalent. It just gets thrown out there. And to the point you just made about these media personalities essentially developing YouTube channels and content vehicles in order to get their message out, where they're not really being held accountable, right? As a journalist, for lack of a better term, you're not being held, your feet aren't being held to the fire by some editor if you just come out here and just start spewing whatever your opinions are. So we're in a really different space now where information is being manipulated. Trump's entire campaign was a manipulation of facts and details. The average American idiot has no idea how to discern the truth from the fake. Misinformation is being weaponized. Now, the only problem is there's certain people who really just want to be that stupid and do not want to go figure it out. No sympathy for them. You will continue to be fooled. You will continue to deal with the consequences of your choices. But I definitely think the misuse of information or use of misinformation is becoming more and more exact, and the consequences and the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah, no, very true. When I think of a lot of the YouTubers or even I think they start out differently. A lot of them do not start out from a political perspective. I think Jordan Peterson, I'm thinking even the Kai's, the little chubby dude, academics.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody got to forgive me. My brain is just off today.
Okay, that's okay. Who doesn't remember their names anyway?
The Ben Shapiro's, all of these different people that are out here, I think a lot of them start out with a message. You resonate with it, be it if you got tuned into them from a video game streaming, you playing a game and then people are talking over it, you feel jilted. You may not feel you're an incel. You are one.
You are. You wouldn't tell you.
Yeah. I don't need to be insensitive. But like whatever your grievance is, there's someone out here that's speaking to it. And if they're speaking to you, I always think of he's the healthy gamer. He's actually a psychologist. And he was streaming on YouTube, and then all of a sudden he got like a big following or whatever. I think he's Dr. G or something. Don't get me started. But saying that to say that I think you get pulled in from whatever your grievance is, whatever the thing is that
good point.
You need assistance with, you need to feel community around, someone's talking your language, somebody's like deciphering these feelings that you have, and then you get pulled in, and now they start talking about politics and conservative viewpoints, similar to Stephen A. I don't follow the dude, but I just know he was a sportscaster, and now all of a sudden I hear more of him in the political realm, and I'm like, how did you get here? So all that to say is that he has a following because he's known in the sports world, and probably people feel like if you majority agree with what he said in the sports field, then you feel like he's speaking on his authority, and from a political perspective, then you may think that what he's saying makes sense. And I think that is where that runway happens and how a lot of these folks get pulled in. Because I don't think that people are tuning in to Stephen A because they want to hear what he thinks about Biden. Just if you didn't know who he was, nobody care what he's talking about.
Yeah, so, I totally agree.
So I think that the entry points are different. And then when you start to build up, because a lot of these people have millions of followers. I don't even care whatever percentage you want to say bots or whatever. It's still a lot of people that tune into them. That means that something with them is resonating. And I think that part of influence is the piece that makes it hard for people to separate. Stephen, I'll defer to you on that sports stuff. But when it comes to this politics stuff, all right, my guy, like that's not it right now. You know what I mean? But not everyone can do that. And I think if you were following him, the majority of us can't necessarily discern that's not his lane.
Yeah. No, really good point. Really good point. I was in a barbershop having a conversation a couple of weeks after the election, and to hear the utter ignorance was, I wouldn't say frustrating so much as I walked out of there sad to a degree, right? There's a young lady in there who says, I knew she was going to lose, but I didn't want my grandmother to be mad at me. And it was like, and a good portion of the people in the barbershop were chiming in. And it was interesting because it's like, this level of, like, you could have easily, you've got a cell phone, right? You can connect to you have a pocket rocket that essentially can get you anywhere across the globe, right? All you got to do is type in whatever it is that you want. There's a willful ignorance amongst certain people who want to be led by a Stephen A. Smith. They want somebody else to do the thinking. They want to outsource the research to somebody else, and they just want to follow along. You do the work, I'll follow your lead, no matter what you say. Right? Mm-hmm. So Stephen A. Smith, who I don't defer to for sports, right, has an outsized position in society, and if you broke it down to its basic essence, there's no justification for it. Like, what is, to your point, like, why exactly is this dude talking about politics, and how did he start? Wouldn't this be clean? Right? What's his justification? What bona fides does he have that would allow him to say anything of any consequences to anyone about politics? You're sharing your opinion, but we're in a space now where, given the size of the contract he's about to sign with ESPN, which is supposed to be, I think, 6 years, $120 million, apparently somebody's listening.
Yeah, and I guess, too, when you said that, I think opinion isn't opinion, right? But opinion doesn't come across as fact.
There you go.
So,
but for those who don't know, at least.
Exactly. So I think that's fair. You know, Charlemagne has come up so many times in the last week, be it his rumble with Whoopi. And I don't even think there was really a rumble, like deferring opinions on the same thing. And then that Andrew Schultz business where everybody's waiting for him to put his boy in check.
It's not going to happen.
I was about to say, I don't think that's going to happen. But what are your thoughts on Charlemagne in terms of being an influencer? Because whether he wants to take that label or not, he is, right? I think it depends on what the situation is and where he chooses to wear it proudly, so to speak. But I think he really came into play with the last election big time, having an interview with Vice President Harris. What do you think of Charlemagne from a influencer perspective and his role in politics and even in hip hop and music culture?
So one, I got to give him a shout. You got to shout him out from going from being
Wendy Williams' lap.
Wendy Williams, gopher, to wielding the kind of power that he has, and essentially, there's nothing you can point to that says, okay, this is how he got there, right? His timing was perfect, right? He's perfectly positioned when this kind of thing started to happen. So you've got to give him credit for that, right? But Charlemagne would be the first to tell you he's not that educated, right? I mean, at least when he started off, not formal education. You can also see there's been quite a bit of self-development from when he first started getting on the radio. That being said, you are who you are, player, no matter where you are, player. And that level of influence and that level of responsibility, I don't know at what stage do you start to understand the impact you're having. Sometimes it's typically too late. Using Tupac as an example, his impact on history and what the elders were telling him at the time, what he was unleashing on the community, he didn't realize, and he didn't live long enough to see what that impact would end up being. But the whole time, the C. Dolores Tuckers and the Reverend Dr. Calvin Butts were, what you're starting in this moment is going to mushroom, and you may not be here to watch what the implications are going to be, but they're going to come nonetheless. I think of Charlemagne, because he wields a level of power within the hip hop community and amongst Black people, because I don't think any white people are listening to what Charlemagne has to say and taking it for gospel. It's just us with the hero and the leader complexes that have a tendency to be drawn to anybody with a microphone and some spotlight on him. And now the new thing with a platform, I think he can be helpful, but I also think he can be dangerous. I think to watch the little exchange with Whoopi, right? There's no deference to Whoopi and the work that she's done and her just being an elder statesman, right? It's almost like that no longer exists, right? And that's because there's a lack of refining on his part, right? He's a dude off the street with a little bit of a checkered past, right? With a checkered history that we can all point to. Some of the shenanigans and foolishness that he's done that we dismissed because, hey, he's some dude from South Carolina. But now you got a little bit of a bigger platform. You're walking through some more doors and you're in some different rooms and you haven't quite made the adjustments yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, he's still a valuable commodity. But I hope he continues to ascend because he's stepping on some toes that should things fall apart from him, he may not necessarily be in a position to be able to recover from. But we'll see, right? Who knows? I'm not praying for his downfall at all, but it's him and other influencers who are just, everybody wants the real and wants the authentic. Everybody wants to go, oh yeah, he speaks from his heart, this, that, and the third. Sometimes that's not good. Sometimes I don't need to know everything that you're thinking, right? I think this is my opinion. All of a sudden, there are people in this world just simply want to be sheep, right? We're quoting Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics, right? Some of them want to use you, some of them want to be used by you, some of them want to abuse you, some of them want to be abused. You have people that make up that audience, right? The people that tune in and listen religiously and who take their cues from radio personalities. And look, at the end of the day, is he making the most out of it? Financially, obviously he is. What the long-term implications are going to be, we are going to see, right? I will tell you, he was one of the people ringing the bell to get Biden out of here. He was one of the first ones. And look at what happened. Look at where we are. It's an interesting dynamic, but I think guys like Charlemagne and some others, the Andrew Schultzes of the world, and him just going off again. Everybody's lost the ability to be embarrassed. For some reason, the embarrassed gene has just basically been diminished. Right, with this dude talking about sodomizing and raping a dude, bro. How'd you get there? Like, how'd you land there? Of all the things that you could be talking about, right? But not if we got into a fist fight, I'd beat you up, this, that, and the third. You literally talking about having sex with a man. But at the same time, though, the president of the United States on his campaign tour was talking about Arnold Palmer's cock and talking about simulating blowjob. But we're in a different space, right? I'm waiting for Captain Kirk and Dr. Spock to land from Star Trek.
Wait, Spock is still alive?
No, I'm talking about the actual character, Captain Kirk, and the Starship Enterprise that just land at your local Walmart, and them cats coming out like, hey, Dr. Spock doing that finger thing, what he does, right? And I'm realizing, wait, this was real the whole time?
Yeah, I agree, and I think probably one thing differing is somebody is listening to Charlemagne. I don't know if it's Stephen Colbert, because they both are from South Carolina, but this guy has had 2 shows that I can remember that were Paramount, Comedy Central. Didn't make it. They were on for like maybe 10 episodes or so, a Hell of a Week, and I can't remember the other one. It was Hell of a Week, and oh gosh, it'll come to me. My brain is like fried.
Don't worry about it. We good.
But so to me, for him to get greenlit for 2 shows on a major network, somebody is listening to him from the Clear Cat side of the aisle. So that's why I think he does have more influence than just our side, or at least he's breaking through to that side. If it's conservative, if he becomes that homeboy that everybody says that is a friend, I have a black friend, however his role becomes, I think he does have enough people either behind him to support him to get the shows. The God's Honest Truth, that's the other one. So Hell of a Week and The God's Honest Truth. So to me, he does have more of a voice outside of our
absolutely, because he's not a threat. Listen, no disrespect intended. He's I don't mean it as an insult. You laughing, but he's not a threat, right? What's his strategy, right? Let's use Bakari Sellers as an example. You think they're going to give Bakari Sellers all those shots? No. Bakari Sellers is the son of an activist who's politically astute and educated, right? Who's targeted and direct in his messaging. You ain't giving that dude a show. Mind you, them cats are cool, right? Let's use Van Lathan. Van Lathan, even probably a little bit less serious than Bakari Sellers, but more serious than Charlemagne. They're not giving Van Lathan that kind of time. Very well educated, very articulate, very aware, understands how this thing goes. Ain't nobody giving him that kind of show. Because at the end of the day, the 2 people that gave them shows is Bill Simmons. He gave them both podcasts. Nobody else giving them dude shows. But Charlemagne is going to absolutely get shows, because for him to not have checked an Andrew Schultz, right? Them two other dudes wouldn't have let that fly. This is what happens with us when we are in these spaces. We tell those who are listening, we signal to them what's acceptable to us and what isn't. As a result, we either get a tremendous amount of opportunities or we don't. Nick Cannon decided he wanted to get serious one time and they took his whole feet from under him. Oh, really? You want to? Oh, that's what we're doing. Okay, no problem, bro. Check this out right here. Let me show you something we're going to do. Oh, no, this show has my name on it. Yeah, but it's our show with your name on it, and we're going to hold on to it. What do we have to do?
And turbans and
glitter. You out here looking like the Swami, whatever you wearing on the top of your head. You looking out here looking crazy. You catching all different kind of lupus attacks, blah, blah, blah. What do you have to do? Boom. Had to go on the apology tour, and they say, all right, no problem, Nick, Kunta, Toby, whatever you want to call yourself. Here's your show back, right? You're either going to submit it or you're going to be standing out in the cold, right? Looking for opportunities, which will come sparingly. So again, Charlemagne is unserious, right? There's nothing serious about Charlemagne, right? So with that being said, I'm looking at him the other day. He has a camera kind of following him when he's going on tour, taking all these meetings. Like, bro, he must have imposter syndrome like a champ because he don't belong in them spaces. But so long as you keep playing the game, and content, because content is king, right? He's a mass producer of content, right? Everything. What have you ever heard Charlemagne say that's profound?
The lie is better than, what does he say? Who believes the truth when the lie is more entertaining?
Yes. Like he ain't make that up. No, he ain't make that up. So listen, me and my cousin got a similar one. Who needs facts when you got all these emotions? Again, it's. And I don't need to take shots at him. I respect his glow up. I actually admire where he came from. With that being said, there's a reason why a guy like him is where he is and can go on The View and get invited to The View and essentially be disrespectful or quasi-disrespectful to the show's host, who happens to be a grand dam in the Black community in terms of accomplishments. Because you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in these settings. You don't get it. You're not refined. Even if, let's just say Whoopi, hypothetically, you in that space and Whoopi says something a little bit off color to you, right? If you know how to operate, there's a way to smooth that out without returning fire. Because at the end of the day, you now, because of her status and because of her being the elder statesman in the room, you've got to a degree, be deferential. But deferential to a degree and also be mannerly about it. But he doesn't have that kind of polish. So therefore, he's going to do what he did, right? We talked under his breath or whatever it was that he did, right? Completely, fully expected, right? No shock at all, right? Because that's what you're going to do. That's what draws the people in, right? Because think about, again, you look at the numbers of the people, the uneducated people who voted for Trump, right? The uneducated people in the Black community. It's funny, I'll give you an example. Having a chat with my son, we were talking about, he said, a friend of his says that this is before the election. The Democrats don't speak to Black men. And he said the most uneducated demographic in the community. He said, oh, you mean the most uneducated demographic in the country? And the dude was like, I didn't think about it like that. He said, we are. He says, and guess what? Black women are the most educated demographic in the country. He says, so the Democrats apparently appear to be focused on them, on the most educated, and according to you, they're not reaching out to the most uneducated. He says, you ever think maybe you just don't understand what they're talking about? So to liken that to the people who are attracted to Charlemagne, right? Mm-hmm. What do those numbers look like? If you ever get into the comment section, there's a bunch of morons in there, right? People who don't have the most basic of an education. Now, people who don't have the fundamental educational building blocks, right? Who don't understand how stuff works and who are mad at something. And this guy is my vehicle. He's my spear of revenge. I get to throw Charlemagne at the system when I'm pissed off, right? Whatever I'm pissed off with. I can't get a loan. I can't get a job. My kids are acting up. Their fault. Charlemagne, go get them. Charlemagne comes out here and says whatever foolishness he says, and they're like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. I listen to him occasionally. Like, bro, what are you even talking about? Like, sometimes I'm like, where's this going? Yeah, I don't have a problem with him. It's just, he's a necessary evil. He's good for what he's good for, but he's not a serious dude.
Yeah. Speaking of unserious, those Black Republicans.
So are you referring to the Koontang clan? right? With LL Cool J, also known as Byron Donald. That's LL Cool J. And what you call that? Sergeant Sambo, also known as, what's his name? Tim Scott?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
right? And this Candace Owens get it? I don't even know. Candace Owens was going to
I
do
don't
nothing.
know. She's in there, but I don't even know what. Again, I'm not giving her any air.
What do I think about them? Congratulations. Y'all done played yourselves. You bunch of coons. What did you think was going to happen to y'all, right? The one thing, the one position that was available was housing of urban development, right? You know,
They like
you know,
somebody they read it as hood.
Hood, HUD, same thing. No, look at it, right? And again, listen, this is why it's. How many times does Trump need to tell y'all niggas he don't f with niggas? How many times you need to hear it? Y'all just for whatever reason, this dude Maya Angelou is spitting in her grave. Like, how many times did I say this? When somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Maya Angelou almost got up out of her grave and was gonna snuff somebody. If she could get out of her grave, she would have. Because how many times y'all need to hear it?
I don't know. I think that Byron Donalds, if this whole DeSantis move happens or whatever moving chairs that they do, and if Byron Donalds actually gets the seat that Gates had, he's like a placeholder. If he tries to spin that as something else, then it's gonna be amazing to me. I have no idea.
It's already too late.
About he may want to be governor. I'm like,
of what?
State of Florida.
I didn't hear, bro. Would you take your listen?
It's just a motley crew. They the Anthill gang. That whole...
This is straight out the movies. The grift keeps on grifting, right? It's God bless him, right? You asked me how I feel about it. I'm just surprised. I haven't seen one of them dudes, Tim Scott specifically, shining anybody's shoes yet, because he has the face of a shoe shiner.
No, because he has to put his wife and do a message because that Lauren Loomer posted a picture of him with his legs crossed on the sofa,
looking like a fancy lad.
Yeah, so he got that fish to fry. He was like, look, let me pull old girl out here.
Again, he pulls out the ironing board with a wig. But again, not my business. He does what he does. Listen, you ask me what I think about them. I think all them niggas is a joke. They some dumb niggas. Leave them alone. Let them, listen, if you ain't got to worry about your family lineage, your name, so on and so forth. Again, these guys have lost the ability to be embarrassed. Byron Donald is a big Jamaican. How, as a Jamaican, you going to disrespect the other Jamaicans in this globe, on this planet, by coming out here and making a monkey out yourself? The nerve. And listen, whoever family member he has. Anyway, I would love to know these people personally so I could respect.
I wonder if it's just the title and position. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I can't really think like any of them because that's not my mode of thinking, but just trying to remove myself and just say, is it that they're looking at this as a title that he is basically campaigning for someone that was at one time running for president, a former president, running again for president, being adjacent to, regardless of what Trump says or does, he's still the president of the United States.
Proximity.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if that's what kind of trumps all this other stuff. Yeah, I didn't get anything. I still had access. I still was out there. And technically, he's still in government, regardless of he's not in the cabinet per se. But I mean, he's still, Donald Trump knows who he is. The president knows who he is.
And that's all that matters. Right? At the end of the day, that's all. You have proximity to power. Mm-hmm. Do you have any? No. Right? Do you have a title? No. But you have proximity. This is, again, right? This is as a people, right? This is when people say, oh, black people need to get together. Absolutely not. We'll never get together, right? Because we're not disciplined. We are undisciplined as a people, where we have allowed we have members of our community who signed up for an avowed racist, and the others who are actually doing the bidding of in public and being disrespected in public by an avowed racist and mm-hmm. feel no way about it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who else is doing that? I digress.
Yeah. No, Totally understand that. I know this is like a weird segue just in terms of understanding the history with government. And probably the one dude that really got on my nerves, and I was just like, let me pull back off of all news cycles, RFK and his speech on resilience.
Oh, the,
If
the
you like
white
it or not.
patriarchy at its finest. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the nerve, just basically telling folks education, if you're educated, then racism isn't going to bother you. Just shrug it off. He said he was called some names when he was in school that were derogatory, and he just shook it off.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with y'all? Dust your shoulders off.
There's two sides to this, in my opinion. One, the absolute gall to be coming in here telling us what we need to be doing with our children. The fuck are you? Telling people what to do. White men are so freaking comfortable. White women are so freaking comfortable. But fortunately for them, they always find the right people because they miss me. I remember I used to work with this dude. One day he's telling me, he's asking me about critical race theory. I said, you don't know what that is, do you? Oh, they're teaching white kids that they should feel guilty for what they because of the color of their skin. I said, why don't you just tell me you didn't know what you was talking about? Right? We could have started there. I could have told you what critical race theory is. And I said, by the way, so the bullshit that our kids have been learning to make us feel uncomfortable, to make you guys feel comfortable, we have to learn lies, right? We got to get tested and regurgitate the lies that make you guys feel comfortable. So my kids shouldn't feel comfortable in order for your kids to be comfortable. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, that's not what I'm saying. Well, that's exactly what you're saying, right? Black people be letting white people off the hook. The RFKs, we let them off the hook. Right. So essentially, RFK is saying I'm not even going to focus on the system that makes your kids feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
So us as white people are not going to embrace
systemic racism.
We're not going to embrace our faults here, right? We're not going to embrace and correct our culpability that has allowed your children to feel uncomfortable in these settings. We want your kids to have tougher skin, thicker skin, right? Be more resilient. We're not going to remove the problem because removing the problem makes us uncomfortable. You've got to learn to deal with the circumstances, right, that you're in. Become tougher, right? Forget about what the circumstances are that led us to this. Become tougher. He ain't got nobody telling him to go suck a dick, right? But again, this is what we do. If you look at how docile all the men were in that setting, right? There'd have been a bunch of furniture moving, right? But again, think about how comfortable he is, right? This is just coming off the top of his head. It's so natural that you guys just have to make the adjustments, right? There's going to be racism. We're not going to ever address that. We can't talk about that. This is, again, why I had to jump up out of corporate America. Because you're having these conversations every day, whether you want to or not, right? Now you have, as a black man in this space, in a room where you're typically the only one in here, sometimes the only one in the building, sometimes the only one on the block, right? You've now got to make a decision. Are you going to compromise yourself because this idiot, sometimes in a management position, decided that he wants to ask you a question that's making you uncomfortable? You got to answer the question with concern with how your responses are going to impact your employment going forward. In my opinion, we give these people passes too much. He's comfortable talking like that. A friend of mine asked me a question, and he says, listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just wanted to get your opinion on something. He asked me the question. He was all really, like, he was effusively apologizing before asking the question. So, yo, bro, we good. Don't worry about it. But you're looking at it wrong. The fact that he was that apprehensive made me comfortable. Right? Because it's okay, I have set the tone where he knows I ain't playing around. Don't sit there, don't feel comfortable enough to think that you're gonna say something stupid off cuff. You get to the point where you feel comfortable enough to say something stupid and off cuff that now I gotta check you, and now the relationship is different. By the way, I'm always expecting you to say something stupid anyway, because that's just in your blood. You can't do anything about it. Some of you guys can suppress it, some of you guys can't. I'm expecting you to say something stupid at some point. But yeah, I think a guy like that, he's too damn comfortable. We've allowed it.
But who? Yeah, I just think that he's running on legacy of the Kennedy name.
Mhm.
I don't know who. I know he has like anti-vaxxers and certain people within the community that are more on the natural side of things view fluoride in water, that crew. So I know that there's an intersection for him of where he can get traction, but I don't know about the masses. So that's one thing I want to look into because I'm just curious. We know the outtakes of him, people talking about he had a brain worm, some
He was
kind
on
of
he was on heroin.
yeah, he was on heroin.
He accused somebody of murder.
She committed suicide. He covered up for the cousin. Yeah, back in the day. Exactly. And but I don't know if it's to that point of what we were talking about earlier about knowing the history of it, what you're listening to and what gets filtered through to even know that this is a thing, right? Because if you are anti-vaxxer and you hear what he's talking about or the dyes in the food, you just get the surface top line. You may not hear or do the investigation to follow up on that and know that a lot of those dyes that he was talking about are banned in the UK are just under a different name.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a grievance, he's speaking to it, and he's giving you a voice in a community, you roll with it, right? And that's why for him, I got to do a little reluctantly, do a little bit more to see who actually is tuning into him.
Oh, listen, he got some followers. Your boy Math Hoffa is a big follower of his.
Oh, geez, that's not my boy. Get out of here. Yeah, no, you ain't putting him on me. I got a whole other crew of people. He ain't one of them. That's your boy.
In certain senses, yeah.
Like most Def do on Chappelle. We the black delegation.
We get rid of him. Somebody, let me have Robin Thicke. Let me have John B.
That dude came out with a new song recently too.
I heard it.
Anyway, sorry, I'm all over the place.
It's all right.
But yeah, no, I definitely have to do a little bit more look-see on him because I'm just curious as to how he's still able to function. He was running for president. He did get votes. So I definitely have to look into him. What do you think about President Biden and the pardons?
Much ado about nothing. What do we expect? First and foremost, with the idea of, oh, he said he wasn't going to. Listen, all bets are off. Y'all elected Trump. Trump got 34 convictions and a whole bunch of indictments. All bets are off, right? Mm-hmm. He could have announced that pardon while he was wearing a Magilla gorilla suit with a Jimmy Walker wig. Wouldn't have batted an eye, right? Playing a banjo in a Macy's window. I'd have been like, word, what y'all doing tonight? Because at the end of the day, all bets are off, right? Yeah. You guys elected a liar, a criminal, a rapist, a con, and a fraudster. I don't care. This is much ado about nothing. And never mind, Trump says he's going to pardon the January 6th criminals on day one. So listen, and he elected a criminal for the AG, tried to elect a a child trafficker, human trafficker for AG. He has a white supremacist running the, what's Hex's position going to be again?
Oh gosh, is he defense secretary?
Yeah, right. You got that. Listen, you got Kash Patel, whatever he's good for, he's going to be running the FBI, right? Mm-hmm. Listen, what's his name? Jared Kushner made $2 billion from the Saudis the first time around. God knows how much money he's going to make this time around, but there's no justification for it. What are we talking about? I don't want to hear nothing.
Dad is going to be what?
Oh, my bad. He pardoned his dad, and now his dad is the ambassador to France. But some other dude, Peter Navarro, just got out of jail 4 months ago. And now what did Peter Navarro do? He's an ambassador to somewhere else, right? Listen, I don't want to hear nothing. But he need to pardon some more people. My man Taquan and them from East New York need to look.
I set my hopes anywhere, but I do want to see what he's going to do. One of the things that I think from the Biden-Harris administration that they could have tooted their horn a little more on some of the things that they've done to the extent that it could get out here and combat some of the noise that's out here. I know we listen to it we follow politics, so we would hear it, but it didn't trickle down enough, I think, in the sense of disseminating it to a point. This is an aside, but it was about prompts for AI, ChatGPT and stuff like that. and how you can fine tune your prompts to give you more precise information. And one of the suggestions was, if you're trying to put a message out there that is for the masses, like you want to have engaging content, just say, you also need to say that it at minimum has to be like a 6th or 7th grade reading level. To me, I'm wondering if that's what happened with the Biden Harris crew, because are you hearing about all of the judge appointments that Biden has done? Was like 147 of them, I think like 61 Black judges, 39 women. Yeah. Be it the American Rescue Plan, I got a whole bunch of stuff. Broadband access, connect with subsidies of $30 to $75 per month for low income households to access broadband. That was over 18 million households who benefited from that as of this year. The Inflation Reduction Act. Like, to me, I'm talking about breaking it down to that point of, you're in a rural area. I hate how I say rural, but you're in one of these areas and you have internet and it's subsidized. Do you know?
Here's the problem. I agree with you in theory, in terms of them tooting their horn a little bit more. You're competing with, Biden and Harris are competing with the media. There's no way around it, right? Because to be fair to the media, especially cable news, Biden Harris doesn't keep them alive. Trump does, because he's always saying something stupid. So now there's always going to be eyeballs. He's going to do something controversial. So there's going to be eyeballs. There's going to be people tuning in when
like
he's
now,
on TV.
Like now with these appointments,
there's always someone tuning in. So it's all the fly stuff that, to the point you just made earlier, you and I know about because we follow politics. The average person does not know, doesn't get, doesn't register with them. They like the flashy, loud thing, right? They don't understand what a president's job is. The CHIPS Act and all the jobs that created. What you call it, the consumer, what is it called? The consumer, the one that Elon wants to get rid of.
Oh, the CFCB.
The protections that are built into that for regular everyday folks. Because of how standard president operates, you don't sit here and walk around touting your accomplishments, right? I got a job to do. I'm here to do my job. You will feel the effects of what I'm doing when these measures go through and they're executed.
Oh yeah, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
There you go. Thank you. Elon wants to get rid of it. All these different things these people are about to see. I don't know if I fault Biden Harris for not touting it, because it's okay. This is the business that you elected me for. This is what I'm here to do. And the problem is, the average person doesn't know. Let's just use all these people, in rural America who are about to feel it, right? The veterans, right? Ramaswamy is talking about, and some other dude, it might be Hegseth. Ramaswamy and Hegseth are looking at reducing veterans' benefits. Oh yeah, y'all about to feel it. They told you, but you can't knock them. They told you they were going to do this. Trump said, "I'm going to do this." Trump didn't make one of y'all a promise. Not if you look back, Trump didn't make none of these people a promise. I'm going to give tax cuts to the rich, and I'm going to make this, that, and the third better. That's all he ever said. There was nothing specific. When he was pinned down, he says, "I got concepts." Y'all bought that. I cannot blame Biden Harris, because nothing they would have said would have changed the outcome. The people were literally, if you've ever seen 10 Commandments, where when Moses goes up to the mountain and comes back with the stones and throws the stones, because these people wouldn't. They say, "Yo, let's build this golden calf." And they build a golden calf. And these niggas went for the golden calf, right? Moses up here, hair turning white. He got here having a whole conversation with God, burning rocks. And I hope you don't miss, because if you could burn a rock like you could cut through the rock like that, I know you could tear me up, right? The American people chose what they got. Another example, biblical example, right? Where Pontius Pilate said, "Hey, you want to let this Jesus dude go, or you want Barabbas?" And we know what Barabbas was into. Right? They say, "Hey, give us Barabbas. The other dude is completely innocent, ain't do nothing wrong, but you wanted the criminal," right? Okay. There's nothing Jesus could have did that would have changed anything. At the end of the day, America has begun to turn on to itself. I don't know where we are on the stage of the empire falling, but we are without a doubt in the empire is falling. Trump getting elected despite, again, all his mishaps, his dude farting all over TV and all these problems he having, you got people backing him. That says quite a bit, right? Just in terms of where we are as a society. So I can't fault Biden Harris for not being more clear on what they were doing, because look what you just said. 18 million homes had benefited. Okay, so you think those people voted for Biden Harris? Probably not. Stupid people. We're gonna see. They're gonna see. We're gonna say that for our F around and find out section.
Yeah, no. As always, good conversation.
Great conversation.
Yes, so definitely stick around for our FAFO. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, share it with a friend. It's the giving time, right? The holiday season.
Yeah.
All right.
Spread the word.
Spread echo disrupted.
Spread echo disrupted.
All right. You have a good one. We'll chat later.
Take care.
What's up? It's Echo Disrupting. We're vibing tonight. Trending topics in the spotlight, breaking down what's right. With smooth grooves and R&B, feel we bring the heat. Critical thought for everyday life. We're keeping it real.